Throughout human history, knowledge has been humanity's greatest treasure. Yet few repositories of wisdom have captured our imagination quite like the Library of Alexandria. For centuries, this monumental institution stood as a beacon of learning, a place where the ancient world's greatest minds gathered to preserve the sum of human knowledge. But what rose as the world's greatest library would fall into darkness, taking with it countless irreplaceable works. The story of Alexandria's library is not just about books and scrolls, it is about the triumph of human intellect and the tragedy of its destruction. The founding vision. In the 4th century before the Common Era, Egypt stood at a crossroads. The young warrior king Alexander the Great had conquered the lands of the pharaohs, bringing Greek culture and influence to the Nile Valley. When Alexander died in Babylon, his empire fragmented among his generals. One of these generals, Ptolemy I Soter, claimed Egypt for himself and established the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Greek-ruled kingdom that would govern the ancient land for the next 3 centuries. Ptolemy I understood something fundamental about power and legacy. Military conquest could be forgotten, monuments could crumble, but knowledge, preserved and protected, could last forever. He envisioned something unprecedented, a library of such magnitude and scope that it would contain the accumulated wisdom of the entire known world. Around 283 BCE, Ptolemy the Born's successor, Philadelphus, brought this vision to life. The Library of Alexandria was not built as a solitary structure, but as part of a greater complex called the Museum, the House of the Muses. This was more than just a repository for books, it was a research institution, a university, a sanctuary for scholars from across the Mediterranean world and beyond. A monument to knowledge. The Library of Alexandria was designed with one obsessive purpose: to collect every book, every scroll, every written work that existed. The ambition was staggering. The Ptolemaic rulers didn't simply wait for donations, they sent agents to every corner of the known world with orders to acquire manuscripts by any means necessary. Ships arriving at the harbor of Alexandria were searched. Any books or scrolls discovered were confiscated and brought to the library. The originals were copied meticulously by skilled scribes, and the copies were returned to their owners. The originals remained in Alexandria. This aggressive acquisition strategy turned the library into a magnet of jealousy and resentment from competing centers of learning, but it was ruthlessly effective. The collection grew to staggering proportions. Ancient accounts suggest the library housed between 400,000 and 700,000 scrolls at its height. No library in the ancient world came close to matching it. The physical structure itself was a marvel. The main reading room was lined with shelves arranged in orderly rows. Hundreds of scrolls rested in cubbyholes carved into stone and wood. The most valuable and rare works were kept in a separate chamber, locked away and accessible only to the most trusted scholars. The scrolls themselves were made of papyrus, the plant that grew abundantly along the Nile, carefully rolled and labeled with tags identifying their contents. The treasures within. What made the Library of Alexandria truly extraordinary was not merely its size, but the diversity and rarity of its contents. Here, beneath the Mediterranean sun, rested the intellectual heritage of civilizations that had largely vanished into history. Greek literature filled the shelves, the complete works of Homer, Sophocles, Aeschylus, and Euripides. The philosophical treatises of Plato and Aristotle, the histories of Herodotus and Thucydides. Mathematical proofs and geometric principles that would not be surpassed for centuries. Medical texts describing surgical procedures and the treatment of diseases, agricultural handbooks explaining advanced farming techniques. But the collection extended far beyond Greek works. Scholars brought Egyptian texts, ancient papyri describing the secrets of the pharaohs, their religious beliefs, their architectural knowledge. Babylonian and Assyrian clay tablets arrived, inscribed with cuneiform scripts recording the wisdom of Mesopotamia. Indian mathematical treatises arrived describing numerical systems that would transform Western mathematics centuries later. The library even housed Persian texts, documentation of Chinese discoveries sent via the Silk Road, and records from the kingdoms of North Africa. It was, in essence, the internet of the ancient world, a unified database of human civilization's greatest achievements. The scholars who worked at the library were not merely custodians, they were some of the greatest minds of antiquity. Euclid, the father of geometry, worked there. Archimedes conducted his mathematical investigations nearby. Hipparchus developed his astronomical theories within its halls. These men didn't just read the accumulated knowledge, they advanced it, adding their own discoveries to the collection for future generations. The decline begins. For nearly 3 centuries, the Library of Alexandria thrived, but empires, like all human institutions, are fragile things. The Roman Republic had begun its relentless expansion eastward by the 1st century BC. Rome's power had become impossible to ignore. The first catastrophe came in 48 BCE during the Roman Civil War. Julius Caesar, pursuing his rival Pompey, arrived in Alexandria with his fleet. A battle erupted in the harbor. The Egyptians set fire to Caesar's ships to prevent them from being captured. The flames spread from the harbor to the surrounding warehouses and storage facilities. The Library of Alexandria was located near the waterfront, dangerously close to the inferno. Ancient historians report that a vast portion of the collection was consumed by the flames. Some accounts claim 400,000 scrolls were lost in a single night. While the true number may never be known, the damage was catastrophic. Centuries of careful collection were reduced to ashes in hours. The Ptolemaic rulers and later Roman emperors made efforts to restore it. Copies were requested from other libraries throughout the Mediterranean. Scholars donated works from their private collections. The library recovered, wounded but not destroyed. The final darkness. Over the following centuries, the battered remnants of the library continued to deteriorate. Wars and invasions ravaged Alexandria. Arab armies conquered Egypt in 642 CE. Some accounts claimed that the final destruction came then, with the remaining scrolls being used to heat the public baths of Alexandria for months. Whether that final story is true or merely legend, the result was the same. The Library of Alexandria was gone. Centuries of collecting, preserving, and organizing humanity's greatest achievements had been obliterated. One fire, one invasion, one ideological crusade can erase what humanity took centuries to accumulate.